What is going on, everybody? Back again today to bring another DC related video. So as you can tell, it's probably gonna be me talking shit. This is not quite another one of my, what happened, where did it go wrong video series. This is more just me wanting to take a very prominent piece of DC storytelling and pretty much debunk it and kind of just tear it apart and show it off for what it truly is. And that's Dark Knight's death metal. You can tell by the title. This story was a patch up attempt by DC to sort of rectify all of the continuity, reboot, shifts, and changes that they'd done over the past decade with Flashpoint and Convergence and Rebirth and just everything. They were like, okay, we need to do something. And then they tried to fix it with Doomsday Clock, really. Doomsday Clock was the initial attempt to fix it, but that book was super late, so that caused another problem. And then finally they just went, okay, they turned to Scott Snyder, who was the only guy to produce anything really outstanding in the last decade since Flashpoint. And they were like, hey man, they gave him the free reins to do a story to try and fix it. And yeah, they personally, I think Doomsday Clock was the better effort. I think the story that they had outlined and plotted out to lead into Doomsday Clock and to use Doomsday Clock to fix everything, I think that would have been better off. But it was late. I've said this before. I stand by this. I don't know this for a fact. I want to put that disclaimer out there. I do not know this for a fact, but I'm pretty sure that the reason Doomsday Clock was late was simply because there is just no one at DC at the tip top of the hierarchy. There's no alpha dog up there that when people start to kind of slack off or fuck around, they get the smack and they say, "Hey, get the fuck back in line." Like there's no like I'm sorry that you got to bust your ass to make this comic book meet its deadline, but like this is the job you signed up to do. Oh, but my kid has a ballet recital that I want to go to. Nope, get the fuck to work on the book. You're behind on the book. Oh, but it's my aunt's birthday and we're going out for. Nope, get the fuck to work. Like you have so many people in this country and around the world who work working middle class jobs and careers, and they have to work on birthdays and holidays and special occasions, and they're forced to miss out on so much shit that they would rather get to do, but their work and their career and their money making takes precedent over that. uh, I don't see why this career should be any different just because it's artsy and creative. It's like, hey, there's a deadline for this comic. Get it the fuck done. Like, I don't care what you have to miss. I don't care what of your children's bullshit you have to miss. I don't care what events weddings you miss. I don't care. I don't care. This is your job. This is your career. You were told on this day have this done. Fucking do it. And there's no one at DC, I think, that really has the power to like fucking lay down the law and tell them to get the fucking line and get the fuck to work. So that's why I think Doomsday Clock was overall late. But because it was late, we went down the road of metal, and now we're going to go ahead and get into death metal and why it sucks, doesn't work, why it's just a shit story, and it's just DC just trying to there's a big leak in DC and DC's just trying to put a shitty patch over it rather than just actually fix the leak. Um, Overall, death metal, the idea behind it was, look, we're going to do this big death metal story, and when it's all said and done, whatever's left when the dust settles and the chips are down, we're just going to move forward. We're going to move forward with DC. And I would have been okay with that if that was really the case. But I read Infinite Frontier. I've been reading Justice League Incarnate. They still keep referencing events from this shit story. So clearly, the whole we're just going to drop it, forget it, cut our losses and move forward. Clearly that's not the case because you keep talking about this dumb shit you did before. So let's break it down. So first of all, uh, Dark Knight's death metal acknowledges that Doomsday Clock happens. And that it's canon. Uh, but they're doing so causes a lot of contradictions. In Justice League number 30, which came out on August 28th, 2019, the Justice League, during the Justice Doom War, interact with the Justice Society for the first time since they vanished with the Flashpoint in 2011. They meet them again. They have the Flash. Here's the Flash meeting them. They're all there, and they have no idea who these people are. He talks about how he recognizes who Doctor Fate is because they have their own version of Doctor Fate that they've known, and he recognizes Carter Hall. But in terms of there being a team called the JSA, he's never heard of that. Regardless, so in other words, this on August 28, 2019, in Justice League number 30, this is the Justice League. Barry Allen, Superman, Batman, Wonder. This is their first reintroduction to meeting the members of the JSA. Well, then, like 4 months later in December, in Doomsday Clock number 12, that's when the JSA truly fully returns and people remember them. Like throughout all of Doomsday Clock, all the way up till this moment in Doomsday Clock number 12, 4 months after this, people still act like they have no idea who the fuck these guys are and that they never existed. And it's like, what are you talking about? You just saw them and interacted with them 4 months earlier in Justice League number 30. But now 4 months later, you're still acting like you have no idea who they are and this is the first time they're back. It's a contradiction, and it's due to just there's no cohesion, there's no order, there's no discipline, there's no structure at DC. They're just kind of all just like fucking around, wibbly wobbly bullshit. Also, there really is no room for Doomsday Clock. Justice League, Justice Doom War leads directly. This story ends with Perpetua winning over the villains, and they're defeated, and she's now in control of the multiverse with Apex Lex as her right-hand man. So that's how that story ends off. That leads directly into Year of the Villain Hell Arisen, which shows how the Batman Who Laughs usurps control from Lex and becomes her new right-hand man. And then this series leads right into Death Metal. So, as I said, in Justice League number 30, which takes place during the Justice Doom War, they meet the JSA and they have no idea who they are, and there's no time in between this chain of events for Doomsday Clock to occur. Yet, it clearly does occur. In Dark Knight's Death Metal, we see that Wally West has Dr. Manhattan's powers that he got from the Mobius chair. So that's a reference to Dr. Manhattan and his involvement in the DC Universe during Doomsday Clock. The Batman Who Laughs, after Wonder Woman destroys his first form, they put his brain into a Dr. Manhattan-like body. Also talking about how this Dr. Manhattan, like they reference Doomsday Clock. This is a direct acknowledgement to Doomsday Clock in Dark Knight's Death Metal. So clearly it did happen, but as I already said, there's no room for it to happen. But they just don't care. They don't care that it doesn't make sense. They don't care that there's no room for it to happen, even though it does. They're just throwing shit together, throwing shit at the wall and hoping it sticks. So, how does it work? Even though there's no room for Doomsday Clock to fit, how do they justify it? Well, their answer basically is it just does. Stop questioning it. And in Justice League number 39, which is the very last issue of the Justice Doom War, we see this panel at the end, after the Justice League has lost and Perpetua has won, the Quintessence tells the Justice League, hey, basically this panel right here, this is a scene from Doomsday Clock, and the Quintessence basically tells them, look, events that unfolded outside your purview, some disconnected from your reality altogether, but still deeply felt an impact. It's a bunch of like blah, 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 fancy wording to make you not understand that what they're really saying is, hey, look, it happened. You guys are unaware that it happened. You don't know that it happened. You don't remember that it happened, but it happened. It happened, but you don't know that it happened. What? It happened, but you just don't know it. It happened, but you kind of forgot it happened, or you were unaware that it was happening while it was happening to you. And it happened simultaneously with all this other stuff, but you were in two places at once, but you don't remember. What the fuck are you talking about? This is just, it's like I said, like I showed you in that picture, it's just worded in this bullshit fancy way to try and make you not realize that what they're basically saying is, look, even though it couldn't happen, it did happen. Just shut the fuck up and forget about it. It's a bunch of crap. So it really doesn't work. They're like, how does it work? It just does. Stop questioning it. Nope, fuck you. That's lazy writing. That's bullshit. What it really comes down to, DC, what it really comes down to is you came up with this death metal story, and then when you ran into roadblocks and you realized, oh shit, this doesn't really work out, you just decided to bullshit your way through it. When the appropriate thing for you to have done would have been to just come out to the mass public of the world and say, hey guys, we have fucked our company to death, and we're going to need to go on a little bit of a hiatus to get it back. Just admit that you fucked up. Stop trying to pull the wool over our eyes. Stop trying to talk your way out of it with fancy bullshit. Just say, hey guys, we have fucked this franchise into the ground. We have. Through our dumb bullshit, we have completely fucked this up. So we're going to need a minute. But you didn't do that. You tried to, once again, just bullshit your way through it, and it doesn't really work. There's also just really sloppy contradictions in this story that have other things to, they don't have anything to do with Doomsday Clock. They're just sloppy contradictions. For instance, we've got this dark side version of Batman here, he's trying to infect Superman. This is in Death Metal. He's trying to infect Superman with anti-life, and he claims that once he infects Superman with anti-life, Superman will basically become like a dark side version of Superman. That's not how that works. Anti-life does not turn like Darkseid did not become Darkseid because he was exposed to anti-life. He became Darkseid. There's two versions. One, this guy, the original one, he became Darkseid because he was exposed to the Omega Sanction. And that's all. That's what turned his skin all rocky and gray, and also gave him the fucking the Omega beams that he shoots from his eyes. And then this guy over here, this is the more post Flashpoint New 52 origin story for Darkseid. In this one, it even says, I have the wiki page pulled up right here. He got his power by absorbing, stealing the gods' power, the old gods. He killed and absorbed the power of the old gods. So I don't know what the fuck Zack Snyder's talking about when he's saying like, oh yeah, exposing you to the anti-life equation will turn you into a dark side like. That's not what happens. Anti-life is used to give people control. If he knows the anti-life equation and then he exposes Superman to it, it will put Superman under his control. But that's also not what they're saying it does, because as you can see in Death Metal, you can go look this up. The little bit of exposure that he does get to the anti-life equation starts to turn his arm all like rocky and gray, like Darkseid. That's not how it works. This is just fucking Scott Snyder. Did you take even a minute to look up the lore, or did you just write some basic ass bullshit? More contradictions. Here, Darkfather points a gun at Batman, and he claims that he's like, remember this gun? It's my own better version of the gun Darkseid himself used to send you back in time during the last crisis. Guess what, Scott? Darkseid did not use a gun to send Batman back in time during the last crisis. Darkseid hit him with the Omega beams. Batman used the gun to shoot Darkseid. Darkseid, it's just sloppy. It's sloppy and lazy. Why did you get this wrong? Why is that? It's a tiny thing, and I get it. Like, people are going to be like, man, you're kind of nitpicking here. I am, because Scott Snyder is like, or at least he was, like the premier #1 writer at DC, probably getting paid buku bucks to do this quality of work with these kinds of mistakes. No. If you're going to make these kinds of mistakes, you don't deserve that job. Give it to someone who's going to get it right all the time. 100%. Grade A content, A+, 10 out of 10 content. Give the job to that guy. Fuck this. I don't care what Scott Snyder did in his past to make you think, okay, wait, well, he's entitled to this job for now because he did so much good work for them. Nope. You don't get to be entitled to shit just because you did enough in the past does not entitle you to just do whatever you want now. No, so this is another just lazy, sloppy contradiction. So now we're going to get into the real part of Death Metal that makes it suck, and that is, it's not just a problem with Death Metal, to be honest. It's also a problem with overall DC these days. It's gotten way too meta. It seems like every single DC story, at least all the big crossover ones, they all are like a metaphor for the art of creating comics. That's what, like, it feels like they are just it's every single story is just a metaphor for the comic book industry and the art of comic book creating. It's gotten so meta, and it needs to stop being so meta. And the specific metaphor that is in Dark Knight's Death Metal, it's used to hide the true agenda of DC it's used to kind of expose that agenda to the fans, to the readers, but also kind of hide what it really is. So let me break it down for you what it really is. This is how I interpreted Dark Knight's death metal, and you guys can tell me if you think I'm onto something. So the hands. These are these crazy cosmic, ultimately powerful beings that were introduced in this storyline, and they are basically the story creators. They are a metaphor for all of the writers and artists and illustrators that work at DC. Because I mean, like, what do comic book creators use to create comic books? They use their hands. Whether they're writing with like they're writing or drawing, they're using their hands. So they're called the hands. They are a metaphor for all of the writers and artists and illustrators at DC. And it says within the story, their purpose, they're meant to make their contributions to the omniverse in the form of creating multiverses, which is a metaphor for, adding stories to the grand overall story. But it also says their purpose is once they've created a new multiverse, once they've created a contribution to the overall story, their job is to just move on. In other words, go create new stories or die, and which is a metaphor for leave the industry. So basically the hands, they're the creators, but it's DC saying, look, our opinion is everyone has different ideas for DC and DC stories, and your job as a DC story creator is to come in, make your contribution, tell your story, and then fuck off. Don't get your head stuck too far up your ass about it, and don't start thinking that the story you wrote and you told is the be all end all, because it's not. It's just another piece of the grand story, and tell it, write it, draw it, illustrate it, and then move the fuck on or leave the industry. So the DC superheroes, the Justice League and the JSA and the Teen Titans, all of them, they are a metaphor in this story for what DC as a company considers to be, DC Comics as a company considers to be the good kinds of fans. In the story, these heroes, they fight for the validation of all different realities, all different versions of DC. In other words, they support the idea that all stories are valid and there's no one right way. There's no one version of DC, one continuity that should be prioritized over the others. So in other words, they're on the side of the hands. They say, like, yeah, all story creators should have the powers to tell the stories that they want to tell, but once they tell the stories, they should fuck off, move on, tell a different story, or leave. No, there should be no one way, one story, one continuity. So the heroes are a metaphor, a representative metaphor for what DC Comics as a company considers to be the good fans. Well, then we move on to Perpetua. Perpetua is a hand. She's one of the hands, but she is a hand that refused to fade away after she made her contribution to the story. She created her multiverse, but then she kind of thought, my multiverse is the shit. My multiverse should stick around. I should stick around in it, and my multiverse should be the be-all, end-all multiverse, the one that matters most, the one that outshines all others. And she wanted her multiverse and herself to stay relevant and important forever. She is a metaphor for the DC Comics creator who works at DC Comics, who believes that their contributions, their stories, their artwork matter more than everyone else's. So that's what she stands as a metaphor for. And the villains, because in the story, the villains, like, most of the main DC villains, along with like the crime syndicate, Lex Luthor becomes her right-hand disciple for a while. The villains support Perpetua. This is DC Comics. This is a metaphor in their minds, I think, for fans that support the idea that there should be one DC story creator above all the others. There should be one guy at the tip top of the company, and that guy, or girl, I guess, there should be one person at the tip top of the company, and their version of DC, their idea for the entire DC Comics story should be the be all end all. It should be the most important, prioritized one, and it doesn't matter what any other writers or illustrators want to do. That one creator who sits at the tip top, they are the god, and what their word is law. And the villains who support Perpetua in the story, they, I think, are a metaphor for the fans that support a particular DC Comics creator and think that they should be the one making all the decisions and calling all the shots. So the last part of the metaphor that we get to is the Batman Who Laughs and all the Dark Knights and the Dark Multiverse Batman. This is a metaphor for what DC considers to be the toxic fans. Think about it, like the Batman Who Laughs, he starts out by supporting Perpetua in the story, But eventually, what is his goal? His goal is he pretends to support her, but really his goal is to acquire enough power to usurp her. He is a character. He is a character within the story. And which is how, that's what most fans, they experience the story through the characters. So the characters are all metaphors for the different types of fans. He is a character in the story who seeks to gain enough power to usurp the creators and take control of the story himself. So, in other words, he and his followers are metaphors for the fans who believe that they themselves should be calling the shots and dictating what the story is, and the creators, the writers, illustrators at DC, should just shut the fuck up and do what the fans say. This is me. I'm gonna go ahead and tell you right now, this is 100% me. I am 100% of that opinion. The fans should be in charge. The fans should be calling the shots, and all of the writers and illustrators and editors and all of the creators at DC Comics, they should be using the power of the internet, like watching YouTube videos, blogs, vlogs, podcasts, going on Reddit, other forums. They should be using every facet of the internet and media to determine what it is that the fans want them to do, and then they should be doing exactly what the fans want them to do. Like, their own creative input should matter very little. It should be about giving the fans what they want because the fans are paying for this shit. So, but yeah, this is how I saw the Batman Who Laughs in this story. He was just a giant metaphor for fans who believe that the fans should be in charge and that they should subvert the will of the creators and take control for themselves. So yeah, and that's really the main reason why I hate this story, is because of the grand metaphor. Because I am that kind of fan. I am that kind of fan who thinks that the fans should be in charge in this story. If I'm right about the metaphor, and please tell me below, leave some comments if you agree with my analysis. This story basically says, like, those fans have no place in the overall DC fandom, because they're basically saying, like, we are going to be creator driven and creator run, and every creator is valid and all of their ideas are valid and all of their stories are valid. We don't care if, having too many cooks in the kitchen causes a problem. We don't care if we have too many creators telling too many different stories for it to all mesh together well and make sense. We don't care about it making sense. We care about creative artistic freedom and just having fun with it. That's I hate that. I hate that shit, and therefore I hate this story. And as far as DC's mindset, their idea that they've been kind of putting out of, like, look, we get it. Not everything about, the death metal and the lead up to death metal, but also Doomsday Clock, we get it. Not all of it fits together and gels perfectly, but the time has come for us to just cut our losses, say fuck it, and move forward. If that was truly the case, I would be okay with that. I'd be super chill with that, because fuck it, let's just move forward. But to me, what that means is we don't acknowledge this shit anymore. We don't talk about Flashpoint. We don't talk about the New 52. We don't reference Dark Knight's Metal. We don't reference Death Metal. We don't reference Doomsday Clock. We don't reference the Justice Doom War. We don't reference Perpetua, the Hands, all of that shit. Great, it happened, but we're never touching on it ever again. We're just moving forward. That's my definition of moving forward, and that's not what they seem to be doing. They keep bringing up this shit. They keep referencing death metal. They keep referencing Perpetua. They keep referencing the impacts of death metal and what it did. They keep referencing how the state of the DC omniverse is the way it is because of death metal. They keep referencing all this past shit. And there's some good in there too. I like what they're doing with Justice League Incarnate. I like how they are kind of teeing up Grant Morrison's big bad villain that he's created called the Empty Hand. That dude was super interesting. I loved the multiversity story that he wrote, and I want to see that. That's the route they should go. But in my opinion, if they really want to adopt this idea of we're cutting our losses, we're saying fuck it, and we're moving forward, that in order to really commit to that, in order to truly be just plain focused on moving forward, stop mentioning this past shit. Stop mentioning death metal, stop mentioning metal, stop mentioning rebirth, stop mentioning New 52, stop mentioning Flashpoint, stop mentioning all of that shit. Stop mentioning the Justice Do War. Don't talk about Perpetua, don't talk about the Hands, don't talk about the Batman Who Laughs. Don't bring up any of that shit. It can still, you know, have happened, but stop referencing it. So, yeah, that's my take on that. This is a video that I've really thought about making for a long time, that I've really wanted to make, and it's probably going to be my last uh, shit talking video on DC for a while, because I'm pretty much caught up. The only things that take place after Death Metal are, in terms of the grand DC story, the only things that take place after Death Metal are Infinite Frontier and Justice League Incarnate. I pretty much just gave my opinion on those, so it's going to be a while until I probably address DC Comics anymore. I've given my thoughts on the New 52, Rebirth, Doomsday Clock, everything basically over the past like decade of DC Comics. I've talked about, I've dissected it, I've analyzed it. The final piece was Death Metal, so now it's just going to be seeing where they go from here. I truly believe if they just stop bringing up this past decade worth of shit, if they just leave it alone, let it die, let it fade into obscurity, stop bringing it up. If they do that, I think we're going to see DC Comics turn around. And also, like I said, they got to stop being so meta and having everything be a metaphor for the comic book industry. Just tell fun superhero stories and make it all one cohesive canon. And the multiverse can be there. You just got to remember the multiverse is a setting, not the story itself. So that's my thought on that's me and my thoughts on Dark Knight's Death Metal and why it sucks. Let me know what you guys think. Please leave some comments below. Get a discussion started. If you like this video, please hit the like button. That helps out the channel. If you want to help out the channel even more, hit that notification bell so you get notifications whenever I post videos. Check out some of my other videos. Maybe subscribe if you like. And other than that, I will see you guys next time.